So about 3 years ago, I just started imagining some sequences that would take place inside the Star Wars universe. And I kind of just thought to myself, just pretended as if, Kathleen Kennedy just gave me the call, and she's like, hey, we really want you to, we want to fly you out, we want you to direct an episode of Star Wars, upcoming, okay? If you could pitch us some kind of idea so we can get a sense of what you would do if we, asked you to direct a Star Wars film. Can you do that? Can you show us something? I have something to show you. Consider this like a glimpse into a Star Wars film that I have created just in here. Now, this Star Wars story, it's untitled. Okay, here we go. Boom! We are on an ancient alien planet. We've never been here before cinematically. We've never even seen a glimpse of this planet, cinematically speaking. So this ancient alien planet, a heartbreaking truth is hidden here. Because of the bizarre atmosphere, day and night transitions are seemingly random and often trippy. So on this planet, so on Earth, when it goes from day to night, right? Okay, that cycle right there, that can happen, within minutes. It can happen within seconds. But that's what it's like on this planet, The transitions are completely erratic and just fucking insane, alright? And this happens throughout this whole sequence I'm about to describe. From the outside, this alien world, it would look like an ice planet. So, our two main characters, we have one male, he's like a Sith, and then we have one female, she's like a Jedi, alright? And clearly they don't have names, so... He has a lightsaber and a gun. She has no weapon. It's a sunny afternoon in the winter, and these two are chasing each other through an ocean-sized wilderness. The ground covered in white snow. The trees look like they belong to a gothic nightmare from the mind of Dr. Seuss or Tim Burton. When we drop into this planet, we should see a little bit of a shaky cam going on, We're seeing rows of trees, going by the screen, and then as the trees are going by, we realize that the camera is sort of moving like this sideways through the environment, right? And then, so shaky cam, we got all these trees going by, these beautiful, epic, wide shots of this big ass fucking forest, and then we see our two main characters, one in front of the other, chasing each other down and shit, right? And this chase, the two of them chasing each other down, it's gotta feel, exhilarating. There's gotta be a lot of great sweeping shots, from up high, up low, right in front of them, really hearing their breathing. We're close on them. We're looking at them from a wide screen shot, or sometimes trees can be the size of buildings on this planet, or at least on this particular section of the planet anyway. Okay, well, first off, it's it's in the middle of winter right now, right? So on the ground, as far as the eye can see, there's snow, and the trees, okay? The trees, not only are they kind of, some trees got snow on them, some trees don't have any snow on them, but these trees, first off, the trees and all the plants, they all share the same color palette, which is a mixture of vivid dark blood and ruby red colors. As the two escape out onto the ice, we notice that hundreds of trees surrounding the lake are beautiful cherry blossom trees. And there's something about their physicality that makes them look completely different than how they would on Earth, but yeah, they're especially since, even though there's snow everywhere, it's a blue sky out, the sun is shining bright, There are some clouds, some big ass clouds, but it's mostly just a big blue sky, and sun shining day, right? And yeah, these cherry blossom trees, like they gotta be like vivid. Like when you look at them and the sun is reflecting on the flowers, like it's almost gotta sting your eyes. Like that's how vivid the color of these cherry blossom trees are. So our two main characters, they chase each other out onto this frozen lake, and she is in front of him, he behind her. She's running from him. He's chasing her, but she loses him, right? She runs ahead of him onto the lake. He shouts something at her. She stops and turns around. His feet slide to a stop. No one speaks, just staring at one another. Deeply emotional moment as they look at one another. She screams out at him in rage and despair. Ah! Like she's just fucking just, ah! She's looking like she's getting ready to cry and shit. She's fucking mad and screaming some dialogue at him that I can't tell you about. The two stand far apart in the lake, but where they're standing in the lake, it's not like... Okay, you see this right here? Okay, let's say that this is the lake, right? Okay, so here's the lake, alright? Here's the lake, alright? Here's the middle of the lake. Okay, well, they're fighting, like, right about there, okay? And the trees, the fucking, all... This fucking pen's not working, but all the shit, like, outside of here, all around, that's like the wilderness, that's like trees and bushes and a shitstorm of trees. Anyway, but our two main characters are fighting like right there. He's got like some kind of freaky looking handgun, right? So he tries to shoot at her, right? Like it was like at his hip, so he's just like staring at her, and he's just like. He shoots at her. She falls onto her back in devastation, crying and screaming out to the heavens. The laser shots from him hit nothing, exploding into nothingness in midair, as if hitting an invisible shield. He looks stunned and in disbelief as he senses a presence. She closes her eyes and stretches out her arms, her right hand wide open, her hand calling to it. So she's on the ground, she's on the frozen lake, right? And she just goes kind of like that, right? And her right arm is extended like this, and her right hand is open, just like this, right? And her hand is calling to it. Cut to an interior shot, big close-up of a blue lightsaber resting atop something dark in a dimly lit room. The lightsaber rattles as it looks like a tiny black hole open in its center. The saber slowly turns into a river of swirling particles, and we realize that the lightsaber is imploding in slow motion, and it vanishes dramatically. It just goes and just vanishes, right? We see an almost invisible, shapeless form move like a bullet through the forest of the ancient alien planet. The forest that surrounds the female Jedi and the male Sith. You remember how Predator looked, how it kind of looked like it was like kind of visible but like invisible at the same time? It was like camouflage, right? Okay, well the way that the Predator looks, right here, right? Okay, well that's how this shapeless form looks like, It looks like, the shapeless form looks like that, and just to give you more of a visual, the shapeless form kind of looks like an energy beam on Dragon Ball Z. An energy beam that looks kind of invisible just like this. So this shapeless form, it is destroying everything in its path. You know, like trees are being, you know, are bursting into smithereens as it passes through. The ground is being upended. Right. He turns around because he hears this fucking this big piece of energy, basically, this shapeless form. He hears it like fucking. Like just moving like a fucking train through the wilderness, right? Let's say that he is standing right there, okay? He's still in the lake. Let's say that her is like right there, okay? He's there. He looks back at the trees around here. Well, he sees. That's where he's looking. Back there, behind him, right? So, he turns around, looks back at the trees, or he sees a few rows of trees behind him just fucking explode. Just boom. And snow, and there's just debris, right? Tree particles, right? There's just debris, like, falling from this explosion. And then, and the explosion is big. And then all of a sudden, just vroom, we see the blue lightsaber, looking untouched, just like flying with like a mind of its own towards her outstretched hand, right? You know, he winces from the explosion, and he sees that saber just rocketing towards her hand as if it's like magnetized towards her hand, you know. So he sees his lightsaber like fly overhead, right? And he just like glares at it. He runs towards her. The saber finally rockets into her hand. She quickly turns onto her stomach, gripping the lightsaber tightly, her body facing him head first. She stares at him with uncontrollable rage, her chin touching the surface of the frozen lake below. He whips out his lightsaber and quickly turns it on as he runs towards her. She screams out at him as she jumps to her feet. She ignites her blue lightsaber with her right hand. So essentially, she's just like, she stands and she's just like, as she does this, flower petals from the cherry blossom trees float past in front of her. He swings his lightsaber at her torso like a baseball bat. She simultaneously swings her lightsaber at him to block the blow. As their lightsabers connect, a cloud suddenly blocks out the bright sunlight, dimming the landscape for a moment. We watch a shot of the duel happening from afar. The two straight ahead, they far into the distance. So far that we see two tiny humans swinging violently at each other. Their lightsabers easily recognizable as snow flurries and flower petals float across the screen, the camera, slowly, in front of us and in the distance as well. The fight between them is elegant and eerie from its barely contained brutal violence. The fight choreography is very inspired by The Raid 2 to be specific. There are so many awe-inspiring shots of them fighting against this landscape of this frozen lake. We really hear the wind howling. We really realize that the wind, it'll blow really hard suddenly and then it'll stop and kind of calm down during the fight. And we actually see that cold wind affect them and affect the fight at times. And for the record, these two have only been outside for just a few minutes. So there's going to be a few shots of this fight that are very similar to shots that can be found inside of the Samurai trilogy from Hiroshi Inagaki, which is like some of my favorite movies of all time. The cinematography of this world, and each time a saber collides with one another, or when a lightsaber just barely dodges flesh from a swing. or every time a lightsaber just touches one of them, you know, just grazes one of them, a shoulder, an elbow, a thigh. Clothing is torn, flesh is seared. I mean, you know, bruises, bumps, like they're just giving each other hell. And this fight sequence is about 3 to 4 minutes long. That combined with the shots of of just this gorgeous, just eye-popping environment, you know, this should be a really jaw-dropping, just like awe-inspiring fight that's just like, whoa, like it's gorgeous to stare at, but it's just so brutal and dark as well. Then suddenly he knocks the lightsaber out of her hand. It skids away across the ice to a slow halt a few feet away. Lightsaber in one hand, he kicks her in the stomach, grabs her by the throat, and throws her away onto her back. She lands back first against the ice so hard that like she can hear it crack. She tries to stand, but he kicks her in the face. So he's just like fucking... Ah! We see a low angle shot on the surface of the lake where we just see just a shot of blood just shoot a few inches across the ice, you know. Her body stops moving. He walks around her in a circle. He gets further away the more he walks. As he walks around her, he's speaking down to her as she struggles to stand and to see clearly. He stops, now a few feet away from her. Lightsaber still in one hand. We show a close-up of his lightsaber. We see a gust of wind blow flower petals and snow flurries through his red laser for a moment. Then with his free hand he points it outstretched to her. Her limp body is lifted into the air and levitated towards him. She struggles against him. She tries to break free, but she can't, and just remains still as she is levitated towards him. Just like that. He's like a few feet away. Like, let's say this is the ground. This is her feet. The tips of her toes are dragging across the ground. Then, as she closes in on him, her body moves in slow motion till they become face to face. So, if I'm her, right, at first her body was being levitated at about this speed, right? But as she closes in on his body, right, her body moves slower, kind of like, it starts moving like that, and then they become face to face, just like this. You know, shit. At this point in time, he doesn't even have his hand like this anymore. His hands and arms are at his side. They stare at each other in a longing way. We hear the sound of the howling winds, especially during this moment. The flower petals whipping past their faces. Okay, so a moment later, just like a few seconds later, we notice that on their eyes, for just one moment, we notice that on their eyes, like in their pupils, we see memories play out. We see flashbacks from their past, from when they were in love, and like horse playing and wrestling with each other and like kissing each other. Because we see these images, because we see these flashbacks happen as if they were printed inside their eyes, it's almost like you could just miss it, and then it's back to like a sideways shot of the two of them face to face. You know, like their mouths are open, they're so close to each other. You know, their lips, their mouths they drift so close and away to each other, back and forth, that like it almost looks as if like It almost looks as if they're about to kiss. And then show a shot of just, like, from here up of him, big close-up. He looks like, you know, he's looking at her. He looks like he's about to say something to her, like he's about to be like, he's looking into her eyes, you know, he's lost in her eyes. He looks like he's about to say, and then phew, we just see a flash of blue light just explode up from beneath the both of them, and then he shakes like that for a moment, and then we cut to a shot. She's holding her blue lightsaber suddenly, and we see that her hand is just like this, right? And she's got her lightsaber pressed into his stomach, right? And it's turned on. And then we see a shot from behind of the blue laser sticking out of his back. And then she turns off the lightsaber, and then we see the laser sticking out of his back just go zoom, and then disappears. And then we just see like a big gaping hole. Black hole in his back. She hugs and kisses him quickly. You know, we linger on that kiss. And then she releases him, and his body collapses onto the ground, dead before he hit it. She whispers something to him. She drops the lightsaber, eyes closed. She's shaking and ugly crying. So basically, if this is the lightsaber, right? You know, he's just fallen over. She's holding the lightsaber, and she's just like, she starts crying and shit like that, right? She breaks down. Then, cut to a completely different galaxy, light years away. We are in an environment that is a mixture of desert and a landscape that has been battered by active volcanoes. There's volcanoes all over this fucking place. Eruptions going on all the time. So ahead, there are two setting suns. The sky is beautifully lit, looking like an abstract painting. We see an old woman hugging her knees in a field of sand, looking towards the horizon at the setting suns, the sky full of warm, vibrant colors. We, the viewer, we sit next to her on her left side, looking at her full body. The old woman is skinny, her hair is long, it's gray, it's black, it's messy, it's nappy, right? And it's tied back in a familiar hairstyle. And from her grayed out eyes, we see that she is blind. The old woman is reading from an ancient Sith textbook with her fingertips. As soon as he, the guy in the lake, as soon as he died, as soon as his body collapsed onto the ground, onto the surface, as soon as his body collapsed onto the surface of the lake, right at that moment, the woman who was reading the Sith textbook, right, suddenly we see a wind that just blows violently for just a moment, and then it stops. And the old woman's clothing stops flapping rapidly from the wind and settles. The old woman looks up towards the sky, and she realizes, she realizes that the woman on the lake has killed. She can, this old woman can feel the life leave the body of that man on that frozen lake, right? So the old woman, she looks up towards the sky, and slowly the old woman begins creepily laughing after her realization. Cut to the female, the woman that is on the frozen on the frozen lake, right? She looks drunk with fear as she stands. She feels like someone is watching her. She looks around frantically. And then suddenly, she stops. And she turns around. And a few feet away, we see her lightsaber. And it's drifting upwards into the air. Just like that, right? She looks confused and mind-blown as suddenly the lightsaber becomes a bolt of light. It shoots towards the skies at warp speed, disappearing before breaking through the planet's atmosphere. She backs up a few steps. And then she stands still, looking up at the sky, at the stars. And then she notices that one of the stars, it glints at her, right? And we notice this out of just this sea of just like sparkling stars. She looks terrified. Cut 2. We see the old woman again on the desert in the faraway galaxy. So we realize now that the old woman is a 70-year-old Rey, slowly standing to her feet. Rey is wearing black, baggy clothing, and she's in a hood. Rey's clothing is completely worn out. We see Rey holding, let's say that like I'm Rey, and my arms are out of the shot. Well, all of a sudden we just see Rey go. And the woman from the frozen lake, her blue lightsaber, Rey is suddenly holding her blue lightsaber. Rey stares at the blue lightsaber as a creepy smile crosses her face. Rey whispers something sinister. Cut to a shot where we are staring straight down at the woman on the frozen lake. In sort of like a montagey way, we get closer and closer and closer and closer on her face as she stands atop the frozen lake, and she goes, we're close up on her face, and she goes, and she's looking up, and she goes, Mother. Cut to Rey igniting the lightsaber dramatically. Rey, she's standing up, she's holding the lightsaber, she's looking at it in like a creepy way. The lightsaber is turned on, but all of a sudden, as Rey is holding the lightsaber, like the laser, it starts just like going like, as if it's about to explode, right? Like the laser is like flickering like a flame, as if like you know how a flame moves when the wind is blowing on it. That's what's happening to the laser of this lightsaber. It's like flickering, and as the lightsaber is freaking out like that, we're getting this really creepy, strange audio, right? Like hearing like weird, eerie, high-pitched or really low-pitched male or female vocals. We're hearing dialogue from several scenes before in the story and dialogue from several scenes from now, and all of a sudden we begin to notice that the laser, the blue laser of this lightsaber slowly begins to turn. It slowly begins to turn red, and slowly but surely, after just like a few moments, as the lightsaber, it's like cackling, it's like making these spitting noises, and then finally, her blue lightsaber, the blue laser, has turned red, and now it burns red. And she's just holding this saber that she's turned red, you know, just looking at it with just this fucking creepy intensity. And then fade out to black. End.